Welcome to the Sitara Podcast. This is our very first episode. We are very excited about this. To my left, Mr. Avi Nash. He is the Monarch to Sitara Grotto. This podcast is going to be a podcast where we discuss everything and anything to do with Masonry, Paso Masonry, worldwide Masonry, and world events in itself. We're going to talk philosophy, we're going to talk theology, we're going to talk symbolism, and everything else. Mr. Nash, what do you think? What is this going to take us to?
This right here is going to take us to another level, just for the simple aspect of we're going to talk about things that we can talk about that nobody else talks about. Some of the things that are neglected, and that when you go through Masonry or go through life, you can use certain aspects in your own life that you learn from Masonry, but it's some of the things that many individuals have forgotten over the years.
And with that, I hope you guys stick around. I hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe and stay tuned for more. So on that note, Prophet Monarch, tell me, how has Masonry affected your life?
Masonry has affected my life because a lot of people look at it as a fraternity or an organization, but it's more of a way of living your life. And I've been a Mason for 21 years, and in that 21 years, I've forgotten more than you'll ever remember.
Yeah.
But it just teaches you certain aspects about the world itself, from the simple aspect of the trees outside, the buildings that are built, or even in your home, the lifestyle that you live, not being one person at home and another person in the public, and then a different person, everywhere you go. It's about being who you are and learning who you are in this journey that you're taking.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, life is all about figuring out what we are, who we are, and why we are. So that's exactly it. That would be coming to the purest sense of the best that we could be or who we're meant to be.
Yeah.
A lot of times we think we are someone, but in the process of going through all these degrees, you're refined in a way to discover who you really are. So, not to be controversial right off the bat, but a lot of people talk about Masonry is not a religion, and we know that it is not a religion.
Right.
However, we could, in my opinion, speculate that if we take the etymology of the word religion, it comes from Latin, religare, which means re to re, and then ligar to tie, so to retie.
Yes.
Which is the same, actually, etymology of the word yoga. If anything that ties us back to God is religious, then I don't see why this and every other action in our life couldn't be a religious way of living. However, it is not a religion.
Right.
What do you feel about that?
All right, so within Masonry, you have aspects of religion present for the simple fact that, you have a Bible verse open on some organizations, and that Bible verse that may be open is to remind you about a certain aspect that you should remember in life.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like we have better way of understanding this if we wear our fezzes.
Yes, I definitely agree. It'll bring a new type of light to us.
Thank you. I feel it already.
Yeah.
Brother, prophet, producer, are we straight over here?
We're straight.
In the excitement of getting started. So I've understood the Bible and the verses to be a symbol of the law of God or the divine law. So what you're saying, that it reminds us of an aspect of our lives, then it ties right in. I mean, it is, I guess the best way to describe it would be that it's pseudo-religious.
Yeah, it's so if you look at all religions, the baseline of religion is be a good person, believe in God, do not do wrong to others, love yourself, love your neighbor, love God. The basis of all religions say that. So if you put that in an aspect of Masonry, Masonry teaches you the same thing that religion teaches you.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is definitely a way that we could have a standard of life.
Yes. Yeah.
What aspects of religion, of Masonry do you find have impacted you the most? There's the fraternity side, there's the symbolism side, there's the philosophical side, there's the charity side.
I couldn't pinpoint it to one certain aspect because for about 7 years, I was an ignorant Mason.
Okay.
I used the symbol to protect me, not me protecting the symbol.
Ooh. Yeah.
So after that 7-year period, I dug deep into one religion. So I would have 5 or 6 books open on the table. And I'd read through one, and I'd get to a point to where it was something I didn't know. I'd refer back to another book, and then I'd go in that book until I got to a point to where they didn't speak on more of what knowledge I wanted, so I go to different books. So it has brought me closer in a religious aspect. As far as me as an individual, it made me a better person in life in general.
Yeah.
Just because some of the values that we learn as we go through different organizations or degrees, you have a story behind it, and there's a highlight or a pinpoint that you're supposed to learn or adapt in your life. So just going through the different organizations, I've pulled stuff from each degree or order and made that a pinpoint in my life to kind of make me a better man.
Tamaulipas, the Grand Lodge of Tamaulipas, they have a definition of Masonry for it to being the summary of the highest cultures of all times. So therefore, you're able to find everything that at some point was, making an impact in any given society,
Right.
and we'll find the essence of that within our order.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It's pretty much what you were talking about.
The way that I describe Masonry to people who don't know what it is or don't know what a fraternity is, I tell them it's like Boy Scouts for adults.
Yeah.
Because as a young man, Boy Scouts mold you into learning certain aspects of life. So then as adults, when we join the Masons, it's like Boy Scouts, because we have those points in life that we need to learn and adhere to.
Yeah, without a doubt. I feel that there is, it's an alternate way of learning a lot of the protocol of society and how to be, a productive citizen and a good man.
Yeah.
So from that, all of a sudden in El Paso, bunch of black faces around.
Right.
What's that all about?
Well, the Grotto, M-O-V-P-E-R, Mystic Order.
Is it M-O-B-P-E-R or is it Movper? Because it's much more easy to say Movper.
It's much more easy to say Movper, but then people are like, what is that? So it's easier just to spell it out. Mystic Order of Veil Prophets of the Enchanted Realm. That's a mouthful. I guess it is easy to say Movper.
Right? Yeah, where is it? Right there.
Yeah. So the Grotto is all about helping out the Humanitarian Foundation. Humanitarian Foundation is geared towards helping individuals who have special needs, and have a whole toothbrush program which helps parents, helps kids, helps doctors, as far as making sure special needs children have proper dental care.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm very proud of about the fact that we got started literally weeks ago, and we've already gone beyond the Humanitarian Foundation, have been able to actively be involved in our local community.
Correct.
We did a clothing donation and the cleanup.
Yes.
The highway cleanup.
With that clothing donation, that was the first donation that they have had since the year 2000.
You know, it feels like there is a huge impact that we're, at the verge of making in this community.
Right.
And I think we have the momentum, and I'm very proud of the fact that we haven't stopped. Every week there's something else that we have going on. So let's keep at that. Grotto. Oof. Tell me more about this, because I've been to all kinds of organizations, and we seem to have fun in a different way in Grotto.
Right. In the Grotto, it's all about meeting outside of the lodge room. We do take care of business in the Grotto, but there's also a fun side to it. And it is basically, one reason I like the Grotto is because even as Masons, we're held to a higher standard in society. The Grotto, it basically helps remind you that even though you're held to a higher standard, you can still have fun.
Yeah, and that we do.
Oh, yes.
We had our first meeting in the Wallace Houston Lodge.
Correct.
Tell me about that. What were your impressions? This is your first meeting as a monarch. Your first official big meeting within the lodge, a temple, whole 9 yards.
Yes.
The feeling. You were beaming, bro.
The feeling that I had, it was great joy.
Yeah.
Just to be able to, one, be the charter monarch.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But to actually be able to sit within a Grotto session again. I've been out here for about 5 years now, so I have not really actively been in a Grotto meetings for about 5 years.
Yeah, the rust showed.
Right, yeah. After COVID, it sort of kind of changed things a little bit,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Masonry took an ugly pause. I could see why. A lot of brothers were affected by it.
Right.
But I think that it's at a point where it's taking a turnaround.
Oh, yeah.
El Paso Masonry overall, I think, has been making noise in all kinds of ways. There's all kinds of organizations out there. The district deputy for District 60 is great.
Yes.
He's super active, super involved. So, shout out, bro. But with all that in mind, where are we taking this? When we talked about doing this podcast, what was the first thing you imagined yourself talking about?
The first thing I imagined myself talking about is along the lines of the philosophical side of Masonry.
Yeah.
A lot of people or brothers, they steer away from things because they don't know what they can talk about when it comes to Masonry.
Yeah.
When I first came through, it was less symbols out in the open as there are now.
Mm-hmm.
You may have seen an emblem on a car, but number one, you would see the ring on somebody. And it was just like, you see somebody with a ring on and it's, hey, you're a traveling man? And right there, that instantly starts that bond. And the philosophical side of Masonry is, in my personal opinion, something that we forget. We remember it when it's time to do degree work. Someone's going through degrees and you got to make sure you study, your part. But even within the degrees, there's certain aspects of Masonry that we forget, especially the characters within the different parts of Masonry. Oh, this person's named this. Oh, this person was named after somebody in the Bible. Well, what's that Bible story behind that person?
Yeah.
And why did they specifically put them in this order or this degree?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I completely agree. I think that that's what I've been preaching for the last 20 some years that I've also been a Mason.
Yeah.
And it's been all about not neglecting that aspect, that deeper aspect. One of the most interesting experiences that I had with Masonry, so I was raised in Mexico.
Okay.
And out there, by the time you became a master, you were a completely different person. You thought differently and acted differently.
And you seeing things differently.
Yeah, and so a lot of times, if we neglect certain aspects of our order, we also neglect to have that change, and I feel like candidates get robbed.
Right.
You know, so it's very important that we do have these discussions and that they are available, and we're able to uphold what is our local tradition and still be able to do the other aspect of it.
Right. I couldn't agree more.
So with that being said, which is your favorite symbol?
My favorite symbol would be, that circle with the dot.
Oh, no way. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Because the point within the circle keeps us within bounds, When I was coming through Masonry, I'm going to tell you a story.
Yeah.
After I became a Master Mason, we had another class behind us. And, the guys, we would always tell them, make sure you study your information. They treated us as if we were kids because we were trying to come in an organization, be better people, live a certain life. And it's just like with your kids. You want to do that to them so they don't make the wrong decisions or anything. So you try to stay on them. So we would stay on to the new candidates and we would tell them, make sure you learn this, make sure you learn that. So there was a proficiency night, and one of the guys didn't know his material.
Yeah.
So some of the guys that were already Master Masons, they saw him at the club that previous weekend. And they basically told him, you need to leave, go home, and study your material because you're the weakest link. So club let out. This guy was in the parking lot talking to women and everything. So when proficiency came and he didn't know it, they gave him the warning, go home and study. He didn't. So I've actually seen a Masonic trial.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was on this individual because...
Oh, wow. Over that?
It was more to it.
Oh, wow.
It was more to it, but, it takes you back to... You're trying to better yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to remember, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my kids, for my family, for community, and so forth.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And so there's literally no point to going through this and not experiencing or living what Masonry is all about.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so I love that symbol. I love that symbol as well. It's as we probably all know, it's an astrological symbol as well, and it's talking about the sun.
Yeah.
And within esoteric traditions, the whole purpose, in most of them at least, is to reach a solar awareness or solar consciousness, to be able to be aware that you are much bigger than your body.
Oh, yeah.
And be able to identify with that, solar aspect or that Christ consciousness. So that dot within the circle has a very transcendent, symbology behind it. Not just are we looking at, holding in within due bounds our passions, but we're also talking about who we are to become.
Right.
And we commonly hear about it being a symbol of deity as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very ancient. I believe there is Sumerian carvings with the dot within the circle. And then, of course, it's very common in Tibetan.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I believe even in Islam.
You may be right on that.
The design, the geometric designs. Yeah. So, I mean, this is one of those symbols, like the seed of the universe, or the flower of life, or all of these are universal symbols. You find them everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Funny enough, the compass and square seems to be somewhere along those lines, not as a compass and square, but as
Just
interjecting peace.
Yeah.
So there is also something to the upward pointing triangle and downward pointing triangle interlacing.
Right.
Kind of along the lines of the hexagram,
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Which reminds us of the elements and the balance of the elements. If you get that symbol of what all the elements are and you stack them all together, you're gonna get that design.
Right.
So in itself talks about being an integrated being, not just in the way that we are supposed to bring the material and the spiritual in one, but all the elements in the environment that we interact in.
And that's Masonry.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you think about building up your own life, but like I said earlier, it makes you look at the trees differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The association. I mean, the association of being able to see through the perspective of God and identify the grandness of it in nature.
Right.
Is really what being a master of this being is all about.
Right. Absolutely correct. I couldn't agree more.
It's something that's missing in the excuse me, Texas initiation is there's actually several. It's very different in the initiation I went through.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that isn't found here is a section of the initiation where you have 3 libations.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Only libations I know about are in Knights Templar.
Yeah. The Knight Templar degree is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. But no. Over here, it's so when you're being initiated, you get 3 drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is going to be sweet. The other one is going to be neutral. And the other one's going to be bitter. And that has great symbology, and it's tied into orders that were very primitive orders back when the Greeks were doing this.
So, in Prince Hall Masonry, they incorporate that in there in somewhat of an aspect, but it's not. I mean, you learn about the symbolism behind the 3 objects that you spoke of, but it really doesn't play a major part in the degree that you're going through.
Yeah, I have no idea. I know nothing of Prince Hall. All I've known is that it's very different, so different that it's kind of its own thing. So, but I know that in regards to the initiation I went through in the Texas regular initiation, I believe it's tied into the whole York Rite and Scottish Rite Blue Lodge.
Right. Right.
So I might be wrong on this actually, but I think the Mexican is the Scottish Rite Blue Lodge, and the Texas is a York,
more like a York Rite
Blue Lodge.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. I think it's the other way, actually.
I know what you're speaking of, because even in York Rite and Scottish Rite, they have their own Blue Lodge degree work.
Yeah, and I actually think it's the other way. But some of the other aspects of the initiation that I went through are stuff like the Chamber of Reflection. So we know more lines where those.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it's tied into. Another aspect is that lodges out there in the walls you're not supposed to have bare walls. They're meant to be used for murals, and you get bombarded with symbolism as opposed to here.
Right.
You're supposed to have them bare.
Yeah, pictures past masters.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think I don't know where that. I'm not fact. I think they're supposed to be bear. There was some discussion of that last time. Yeah, I don't think there's supposed to be anything on this one. I think the only thing they allowed in Texas is the chain around the room.
Gotcha.
So it's interesting how different they are, but there's great symbology to learn from all of them.
Yeah. And the neat thing about Masonry is no matter which country, state, whatever part of the world that you're in, it may be a different language, it may be a different ritual, but you will still be able to meet on the level with someone, regardless of what language, culture, country that it is.
Yeah, and you know what's going on. Even if you don't understand the language, you're seeing it, you know what's happening and what's next.
That's why I've never gone to a lodge in Mexico. Because I'm like, I'm going to sit there, they're going to be in Spanish. I may be able to follow because who's moving around, but I'm like, I'm not going to know a word.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think you must. I mean, it's an experience. It's some of the brothers that from here that have gone could tell you it's definitely an experience. You gotta experience it. A lot of the guys out there speak English, of course,
right?
But you know what's going on during the ceremony. It's much more visceral, for sure. Yeah. But I think that's one of the most interesting parts of our order, the fact that there is so much inner melting pot of cultures type of thing, intermixing. And so there's a brother from the Philippines that's often with us. You know, he has some stories that he's told us about. So, yeah, no, I mean, I think Brother David Dorsey got raised in Germany.
Germany, yeah.
Yeah. They're super strict out there.
And like his shrine is in Germany too. And he said the American shrine is so much different than what he went through in Germany.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't even know Germany had a shrine. I thought it was just an American thing.
Nah, he's like, I'm sticking to over there.
Yeah.
You know? So speaking of would you say something about my brother from the Philippines? I'll never forget this guy. He comes in to visit the lodge, my lodge in Dallas. And, you know, we don't mix organizations, you know, like York Rite, you know, you don't wear your York Rite aprons in a blue lodge.
Right.
And this brother, he shows up. He's got like a red cloth collar, red apron, like he's decked out in like red stuff. And I'm like, hey, you know, this is the blue lodge, you know, this is, you know, we don't wear the York Rite stuff here. But in his home country,
that's master.
They wear the red aprons, you know, and it's like, I was trying to correct him so, you know, he didn't get chewed out or whatever. Yeah. But, you know, that's the custom in his country.
Yeah, so my Master Mason apron is red. And, you know, it's crazy how some of these aprons have such beautiful artwork in them. Yeah. One of the ones that is interesting to me is in China, since Masonry out there, or at least, I don't know how it is now, but it used to be much more underground.
Secretive. Yeah.
And so they didn't use the universal compass and square.
Gotcha.
They would use the blue lilith.
Oh, wow.
So it was a little flower, and their aprons also had the little flower. Yeah, it's also interesting, man. There's all these little cultural changes, I think, is what makes our order so rich. You know, there's so much to it. The protocol in Mexico. I mean, I was raised there, and it's been so many years since I'm there. I'm all relaxed. And over there, every time they call your name, you got to stand up and do guard, and you got to say everybody's full 10,000 names. And
see, that's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
I'm used to that.
The titles, everybody's got, I mean, huge titles. I mean, it's just such a different protocol.
Right.
You know, and it goes with the culture.
Yeah.
You know, the Mexican culture, I think psychology has a term for it. It's high context. It's a high context culture. The high context culture is the kind of culture that if I'm rushing to an appointment and I'm going to be late, but I see somebody I know on the way, I'm going to stop and say hello, because saying hello is more important than being late, as opposed to a low context culture like America, where it's more important to be on time than you'll just wave.
So speaking of that, it's outside of Masonry, but I live an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
And my wife Persia, she's always telling everybody that it takes 2 hours to get here.
Yeah.
That extra 30 minutes is me stopping and seeing someone I know. I go to the gas station, we get gas, and I'm in a gas station talking for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So my wife adds an extra 30 minutes because I don't wave. I pull over. I haven't seen you in a while, So, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think that very much reflects in the ritual work. And so when I'm out there, I forget all the protocol out there.
Right.
It's such a rich context ritual.
Yeah.
As opposed to it being just neat, cut and dry type
Right.
of thing. So one's very practical. I think a lot of the way that they approach it out there is different too. So I think all of us coming through the degrees in Mexico approached it as a mystery school of sorts.
Right.
As opposed to a society club or gentleman's club or anything like that.
So one of these other podcasts, we'll talk about my beginning with Masonry in depth, because there's a story behind that. But when I first joined Masonry, one, I didn't know that I had family members that were Masons.
Bro, we're gonna both have to talk about this.
I didn't know that my great-grandmother was an Eastern Star.
Yeah.
I honestly, I joined Masonry because I had some college buddies that were Masons. I saw what type of people they were. I saw how much fun they had in life. And it seemed like the Masons on the college campus, the Masons were more happier than any other organization. So I honestly, not knowing anything about Masonry, I joined because I saw how much fun in life the Masons I knew had.
Yeah.
I didn't even tell them when I turned in a petition. I didn't even let none of them know that I was a Mason. I didn't let my family know.
Yeah.
So even back then, the secrecy of the organization was much bigger than how it is now.
Yeah.
Like now on Facebook, they take the pictures of the lodge and the candidates are blurred out. Back then, when I came through in Prince Hall Masonry, you didn't even let anybody know that you were an apprentice. Because it was like you wanted that secrecy. So different cultures, different things.
Tell me more about this. I'm going to tell you the story of how I came to Masonry too. It's going to blow you away.
So I had my buddies that were all Masons. So not knowing that in Texas, Masonry it still is Prince Hall and then mainstream.
Yeah.
So you have the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Texas in Fort Worth. Then you have the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Texas in Waco. So I went through the internet. I found a lodge in the city that I was in, and I called up the secretary, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll be here tomorrow, this time." So I go to the lodge, and ring the little bell thing. Secretary comes to the door. When he opens the door, he's got his foot up against the door. He's holding it. The door's open like this much.
Wow.
He's talking to me through the opening in the door. And I'm like, I'm Avi Nash, I talked to you yesterday, and he's like, you'd have a better chance petitioning this other lodge on the other side of town.
Wow.
So I was like, maybe he's telling me that I'd fit in better at that lodge because it's younger people. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I don't want to say it's racism. It's younger people. So I go to the other lodge. I have dinner with them, turn a petition. They come out, investigation committee comes out, meets me. Investigation committee goes back, finds it favorable. So now the lodge has to vote. And the worship master at the time, he calls me up a few days later, and he's like, a couple of guys from the other lodges came out, thought it'd be funny, and voted against you.
Wow.
So I in essence, I got blackballed from Masonry.
Wow.
So after that, the worship master of the lodge, he stepped down. He said, if this is how everybody's going to be, I don't want to be part of this organization. So I wound up calling the lodge, finding out how many years I was blackballed for. And the secretary couldn't find the information. So I'm like, okay, I'll call Grand Lodge. I called Grand Lodge. The paperwork never made it to Grand Lodge.
Wow.
So I filed a complaint. The Grand Master at the time, he had a meeting with, the district deputies about how racism shouldn't be a part of Masonry. So I wound up moving down to Beaumont, Texas, and I petitioned at Prince Hall Lodge there. And when I came through as a Master Mason and someone heard my name, they were like, oh, you're the one that caused all that commotion with the AF and AM Masons. So my name had traveled around for the ripple effect that I caused. And back then, even joining Masonry, we were given a month to learn each degree.
Wow.
So in essence, I came through in 3 months. From the time that I got my entered apprentice to Master Mason,
Yikes.
3 months. So it's drilled into you. And I came in on a cusp of when they stopped the hazing. So like the most that they would do would, the finger to the chest.
Yeah.
But prior to that, they used to like pat like fraternities.
Yeah.
They would haze them to get in and everything, but
Yeah.
we don't have that nowadays.
Well, that's not a law in Mexico. Mexico's still wild.
Yeah.
So here's my story. I knew about Masonry from just reading about esotericism and all kinds of occult and all this stuff, right? As a kid. So for many years, the name had popped up. I had always been curious about it. But at the same time, I grew up being my best to be a good Christian kid.
Right.
And I kind of felt like, oh, God is going to, God's going to get upset with me or something, right?
Right, yeah.
Because when I was learning from Occult is when the name would come up.
Right.
So that was my association to it. And then years later, I moved out to San Diego, and I happened to be surrounded by a bunch of Masons. Now, this is going to sound like a joke. There was a guy, he was an all-out occultist, dressed in black, he was a painter. There was a Christian, there was a Muslim, and there was a Jew. But they were all Masons, and they all got along. They got together every day. It was a great experience. They had a blast. I come from a background where Christians were fighting Christians over here, and I was like, what's going on here? It was culture shock to me.
Yeah.
So, come back to El Paso. I determined I'm going to do this. I'm going to get in. I don't know how, have no idea. I'm working at the mall at this point, and I see an older man. He's dressed in all black, and he's walking down across the hall from me. They make dog tags, and I could see the computer. So he goes, he orders something, walks away, and the compass and square pops up on the computer. I'm like, he's amazing. He comes back. I'm like, come here. It's like, hey, you want to get a cell phone? He's like, no. Come here anyway. Let me talk to you. So I'm talking to him. He's like, okay, but you should join your lodge in here, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I want to join the lodge that I feel most connected to, right? So whatever the case is, I fill out the petition, and time goes by. And time goes by, and it goes by, and I call him every now and then, and I'm like, hey, is everything all right? He's like, yeah. Hey, by any chance, did you lie in your petition? I'm like, no, I didn't. And so it went on. He's like, yeah, don't worry, we'll get back to you. I show up, all kinds of cars there. I don't know what I'm doing. The whole experience of it goes through, and at the end, we're going to go down and have dinner. So I'm walking down the stairs. There's a brother at the bottom of the stairs, looks at me halfway down, and he's like, hey, how's your dad? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't seen him in 15 years. My parents got divorced when I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of took a pause, and then everybody cracks up laughing. He's like, oh, that's why we thought you were lying in your application. I'm like, what? They're like, well, look, me and that guy and that guy, your dad initiated us in this lodge.
Your dad?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
That's giving me like goosebumps.
Yeah. It was mind blowing. And so we were talking about how everybody over there treats it like a school, right?
Right.
Well, that's because to go from one degree to the other, you have to turn in a bunch of research papers.
Gotcha.
At some point, I had the opportunity to go to Grand Lodge in Chihuahua and dig up some of his papers. To my shock, his signature, his name is Hector Lara. My name is Hector Caleb Lara.
Yeah.
His H and his L were exactly the same as mine. And in Mexico, when you become a Master Mason, you put 3 dots on your signature.
Yeah.
The placement of the 3 dots was exactly the same. This is a dude I never really knew.
Never knew. Yeah.
I mean, I knew till I was 5.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was a Mason or any of that.
All those years that disconnect, and I don't know if you said spiritual or whatever.
Yeah.
You still had that aspect of him within you.
Yeah, which is wild. And so there's a book out there called The Magic of Masonry. Mm-hmm. And the whole premise of the book is that every single person that becomes a Mason has some sort of like weird experience as to why they're drawn to it.
Right.
So I would think that there is some sort of, let's call it metaphysical or spiritual aspect that draws us to it.
Yeah.
But my first experience of Masonry was already like, wow.
Yeah.
So you could imagine. I mean, I took it on as my standard bearer for many years.
Yeah. It was meant to be.
Yeah. Later down the road, found out I have a bunch of cousins that are Scottish Rite, live out in Washington. My great grandfather was a grandmaster in Durango, and my great grandfather was something in Spain.
Gotcha.
These are people I never knew.
Right. Yeah.
Crazy, huh? It runs in your blood.
Yeah. I have a cousin. I was at my grandmother's house, and my cousin had shown up. I hadn't seen him since we were little kids, so I kind of forget what he looked like. And my grandma was like, "Who's that pulling up?" And my friend I had with me, I was like, "I've never seen him before in my life." And she's like, "Well, he kind of looks like you." So he comes in, and we shake hands, and later on we go outside and we're in the driveway and we're talking, and we leaned up against my car, and he said something about the emblem on the car, and I was like, what you know about that, And he says, "You don't remember the handshake I gave you?" And my mind went back to when I opened the door. He gripped me like a Master Mason.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't catch it because I was just in awe of, I haven't seen him in so many years. We do look alike that I didn't even grasp the handshake.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Oh, you're a Mason too." And the crazy part about it is me and him, we became really close after that. But he had joined the Masons 6 months before I did.
Wow.
So it was like that same year that he joined, I had joined too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That is wild. There's definitely something to it. I mean, it's just not normal.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and aside from that, the experience of being able to be amongst brothers that knew my dad and kind of knowing that I'm going through some experiences that he had gone through, kind of gave me a connection that I never had.
Right.
You know, so that was interesting in itself. You know, it kind of makes you wonder if there's such a thing as destiny.
Destiny, yeah. You know, even in life, we look at certain things and we may pass somebody on the street and not recognize them, and then, you know, 5 years later, bump into them again and meet them and be like, oh, you know, I used to live over in so-and-so. Oh, I used to live over there too. We probably bumped into each other before. It's a reason why we go through different things in life and certain people that we run into that we don't even know.
Yeah.
You know, and it's sort of kind of, it goes back to me seeing all my Mason friends always happy all the time. And it goes to smiling just randomly to someone. You walk past someone, you smile, you never know what that smile may do for them because they may be having a bad day, you know? So, and that's one thing that I like about Masonry is that if you dig deep into your studies and become a better person, something as simple as a smile can go a long way for somebody.
Yeah, well, again, it goes back to being able to live religiously to where every action has that transcendent intent to it.
Yes.
You know, it's not just a smile, but you're really trying to make somebody's day.
Yeah, making an impact in life.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen with Grotto in El Paso?
Oh, Grotto in El Paso. We started small, and from here we can do nothing but go up. You know, Grotto, the closest grotto to us is about 5.5 hours away. So
In the U.S.
in the United States jurisdiction, you know, and with one being in Juarez, a lot of brothers don't cross the border, so they'll never get to experience going to the grotto in another country, you know, even though it's just a hop, skip away. I think that Grotto will grow into one of the powerhouse organizations in El Paso Masonry.
Yeah, God willing, that's the intent. We definitely have lots of plans to be able to cause that impact. So hopefully we could keep that momentum going.
Yes.
What do you think about Grotto is so attractive to Master Masons?
Because it is the Master Masons' playground.
Ooh.
The Grotto is said to be Masonry's best kept secret.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's because a lot of people don't know about the Grotto.
Yeah.
They hear about it, but a lot of brothers go more towards the shrine direction. And I think that's because the shrine has a bigger database. You know, you got the shrine hospital that's attached to it. And coincidentally, in years of birth, the grotto and the shrine are only 10 years apart.
Yeah.
You know, so it's nothing but growth for this organization, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think out of all the organizations, Masonic organizations I've belonged to, this definitely has a different sense of freedom to it.
Right. So I would say the Grotto has been the number one organization that I have been super active in, just for the simple fact of the Grotto being a huge organization, but you have more freedoms within the Grotto.
Yeah.
It's sort of kind of like you get tired of going to the lodge. With the Grotto, let's go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
Let's have a family night to where we can have a round table discussion with our family present. Mm-hmm. You know, kids come, wives, wives or girlfriends. As I tell everybody, you can bring your wife, you can bring your girlfriend, just don't bring both of them. That's a joke. But, you know, I think that's what a lot of brothers are lacking. You know, in lodge, you know, it's it's, we have fun, but it's strictly business.
Yeah.
The grotto is about fun and frivolity.
Yeah. Yeah, and it definitely feels that way, and it feels like there is still that sense of brotherhood without so many restrictions.
Right.
Plus, that freedom is also present in what we could do in the community.
Yes.
I have been involved with many other organizations, and they have so many rules as to what you could do. I mean, they all have something they have going on.
Right.
But with Grotto, we could directly impact where we live, and in a way that is very visceral. I love it. We could be out there and physically be in touch with them in a way that we could really find needs and fill them.
Right. I definitely agree. And I think that's one reason why I attached to the grotto so hardcore, is because it's more of community-based. You know, you do a lot for the community. I'm not saying as regular Masoners we don't, but I think with grotto, it's more of let's impact the community more so rather than the lodges.
The way I see it is that the lodges have a way of doing things, and so you have to stick to the way of doing things. And in Grotto, you have an idea, and we're all backing you up. Let's do it.
Yes.
You know, so that's kind of the difference. You know, it's not so much that they're not both active.
Right. It's the avenues of going about doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the freedom is there to be able to just do things in a much more spontaneous way.
Right. There you go. Yeah.
Geez, we really talked our way out of that one. What do you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
I don't know. We talked about a lot.
What do you guys want us to talk about? Make sure you guys write in and let us know. We are up for the challenge.
Oh yes, most definitely.
Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, we should. Because we'll talk all day.
No, let's not talk all day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. If you stayed with us this long, you are amazing.
Yes.
This is Sitara Podcast. We will be doing this as often as we can. Stay tuned for more.
Sitara.